Hello, everybody. This is Leonardo Flores, DJ Show Pop. Just want to say thanks for tuning in. It's right after Thanksgiving here in the United States, so just hope you're all having a good vacation if you're in the U.S. And at least I hope you're all enjoying the World Cup right now. First off, before I get going, I really want to talk about my friend Greg Hignight. He passed away last month. He was a real important part of the Japanese culture community right now, since the 90s, the early 2000s. He is the one that started Tune in Tokyo, and he's the one who invited me to start DJing at Plastic City and a lot of the other events that he did. Greg was a real important part of the cog, one of the biggest cogs in the Japanese community, culture community here in Los Angeles and Southern California. He was a good friend of mine, and he passed away last month. So I just needed to talk about him a little bit. He was the one that kind of put together his last hurrah. Really was putting together the event that we did for Anime Expo. It was his gig. He was the one who put it all together, and it was one of the greatest nights I ever DJ'd. And the fact that he put it together for us, for me and Dave Tata. So it's a real big loss to us right now. He did start Tune in Tokyo in the mid 2000s, and he was just a wonderful guy. If you met him, he was a very warm fella, very, very kind. All the people he introduced me to over the last 7 or 8 years since I've known him are always just standout people, and he never had a bad word about anybody. So I just want to maybe dedicate this video to my friend Greg and Greg Hignight. And if he didn't know about this, but he did pass away last month, and we're just kind of filling in the last few events. We did the Anime Expo Chibi event in Ontario on Friday night, the Marketplace, and me and Dave Tata DJ'd that night as well. And I'm just real happy that that we were able to kind of do these last events that he had set up for us, but he had passed away before he had a chance to be a part of it. So my friend Greg, I miss you a lot, and I hope to see you again soon. And thank you for all your friendship and all the kindness that you've reached out for me over the years. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and go over this last box. I got about a month ago, so I just had a lot of personal stuff going on, so I just haven't had a chance to sit down and write out notes for this stuff. But so let's just get going on some of these reviews right here. The big thing about this package and all these albums, I think the big thing about this that I think you should know about is nothing was over 2,000 yen. Nothing was over 20 bucks. Everything was mostly under 1,000 yen, believe it or not. There's a few that reached up to about 2,000 yen. And it's just because if you see my last packages, I have like $100, $200 records in them. I said, I want to kind of just play it kind of low key and just fill in some records I haven't got, kind of introduce myself to new artists. Didn't really want to spend a lot of money. I just kind of wanted to just have fun and buy some records at a reasonable cost and stuff. So the first one we're going to do is Yuki Saito's best of album called Yuki's Brand. This ended up being a really hard album to find. You can find it like as a rental, of course, or missing the OB and stuff, but it was really hard to find like a copy of her best of album. When I first started collecting her albums, I saw it for sale. So I figured, it's just an easy one to get. It ended up being the hardest one to get. And if you don't have any of her albums, I highly suggest you picking up this one, because it's kind of like, it's funny because it's called Yuki's Brand. Like if you heard of Yumin's Brand, the best of album, it's an album it's a compilation that plays like an album. And this album is a compilation that plays like an album. It feels like it's its own album. It's really cool. If you don't have any of her albums and you're curious, this is more than a best of. This is more than a compilation. This is somebody who put together some really good songs that kind of make it its own thing, and it's really cool. So it is a little bit tough to find with the OB and all the stuff on it without rental stickers on it. But if you don't care about all that, just pick it up. You can get it for relatively pretty cheap. So definitely pick this one up. Next one is Naomi Kawashima. I've talked about her many times. I'm almost done getting all her albums. I actually picked up the last 3 albums I needed by her. I just need her debut album. Really cool album. I love her voice. She has a good vibe. Her music just is really cool. They're just good albums. They're just good straight albums. And I've mentioned before, she passed away in 2014, I think. And so she died of cancer. So I know a lot of people are finding her album through Gemini because she covered a song or originally written by I can't think of her name right now. So definitely pick up her records. They're really fun. I think you'll really like them. I haven't listened to this one yet, so I'm really looking forward to listening to it. All right, so the next is Tomoyo Harada Shoshite album. It's actually a double disc album. This was the last of her original albums I needed. I actually got it for a really good deal. So it has a 12-inch and it has a the full album on it. Usually our albums are in color or clear vinyl, but this one is actually just on black. But it's cool that it's a double disc, and I really, really like her sound. She's a good singer, has a solid backup crowd, background musicians and songwriters for her. And I think she also wrote some lyrics for some of her songs as well. So definitely, it's a really cool album. Pick up anything by her. You can blindly buy anything by her, and it's always going to be good. So kind of nice to kind of close her out with her original 80s album. So, all right. So next is Sojo Tai. This is an album called Super Vario. This album came out in 1986. Some of their later albums are actually a little bit harder to find and actually kind of pricey. And I was really happy to get it for under 2,000 yen. I got it for like 1,500 yen. Really cool, really forward idol group. They were kind of ahead of their time. They're just like, they're just they should have came out in the 90s. They just have that more energetic. If you watch their videos, they're like pulling a studio up hostage with machine guns, and their energy is just really incredible. And this is actually a cover album, actually. I didn't know this until actually I got it. It has a really cool version of Bob Cruz' Music to Watch Girls By. It's done in a really moody way. If you see any of their albums, especially their later albums, pick them up because they're really kind of hard to find. And I was really glad that I was able to get this one at a really reasonable price. It has the original shrink wrap with the original hype sticker on it. So I just bought a really cool lot of like almost all their albums, but it's going to be in the next package. So. All right, so the next one, like I said, I finished getting all the Odyanko Club albums, but now I'm kind of going into like more of the obscure ones that were like soundtracks or just songs that they sung on them and stuff. And this was I was going to reserve this for the last record, and this is actually a best of kind of. It's a compilation of all the Yanko Club members that were on Epic Sony CBS, which was Sonoko Kawai, Saori Kokushu, Sanie Janucci, Minario Watanabe, and Marina Watanabe. So if you look at it, it doesn't say a Yanko Club anywhere on it. So it's kind of unusual that they didn't mention a Yanko Club on it, even though it is essentially an Yanko Club best of for the CBS Sony Epic members of the band. So I haven't heard it, but it's cool. It's kind of nice to finally have a copy of this album because it's like I'm kind of going into the deep dive of Yanko Club now with getting some of these out of the way albums that you don't see that often. So. All right, so next we got, hold on, I got to get my notes. Yumi Takigawa. This was the last album I needed by her as well. It's a live album, but I think it has a lot of new songs on it. It just isn't just covers of stuff that she did previously. Haven't had a chance to listen to it, but now that I got this album, I can probably do a nice retrospective on her career. So it's really cool to finally have it. It was, like I said, it's the last one I needed. Haven't had a chance to listen to it, but there it is right there, okay? All right, so the next is a lot that I bought, and this was a really inexpensive lot. It was like 1,000 yen lot, had about 5-6 records in it. Everything was kind of cool, stuff I didn't have. There was only one album that I already had. I'll talk about that in a second. But I really bought it for the 2 Ann Lewis records I was missing, and I'm fairly getting close to finishing her up to. I just need her first 3 albums and her last 2 that were on vinyl. So it's down to 5 records. 2 of them are very easy. One is kind of expensive and doesn't pop up. The first one's a $300 record. The last one is a very tough one as well. But I'm getting close. She has a big career, 24 albums on vinyl. It's like a huge catalog to get. So this is one of her albums. This is Ann Lewis from 1983. I Love You. Really cool, real classy, very beautiful lady. So I'm really happy to have this one on it. And then this one I think I've already talked about, but I had a rental for this one, and it was missing the Obi, so it was a good reason to buy this album again. And this is an incredible album. I DJ music from this album all the time. If you're into more of the synth pop 80s stuff that's more funky and soulful, you would really love this album. There's some rock on it, but it's mostly a synth pop album, and it's really cool to get a nice clean copy of it with the OB and everything. It's called what is it? Romantic Violence. But yeah, pick it up. This is a really good album. You guys will like it. So, all right. So another record that was in this lot was this album right here. This is Seiko Masuda, an album called Fragrance. This is actually a compilation. This was actually her first compilation. This came out in 1981. So it was a year after, I think, her first album came out. She had a compilation already. So I haven't had a chance to listen to it. I haven't found out the breakup of the songs, of if it's just like a singles compilation or there's like a new song thrown in. I don't know. That's the thing about Japanese compilations. You just don't know what's on these records. So, but anyway, so it's really cool. She had a mind-blowing, from 1981 to 1987, she had a mind-blowing 10 compilations. So just collecting her compilations is like an effort into itself. So, but this is the first one, so I'm really happy. It's a great cover. I love the purple on it. Has the OB on it with this really cool foil sticker on it. It's cool. I'm really happy to own this. It was a nice little addition to the comp. So, next one is Rebecca. I do have about 3 or 4 singles by them. Rebecca was the name of the band. They had a female singer. I forgot. I don't have her name memorized. But yeah, they're really cool. I'm not really a big fan. I say this all the time of Japanese rock from the 80s, but I'm not a fan of their rock stuff. But I'm more of a fan of their like moody music, their more atmospheric music that they would put on album tracks or B-sides and stuff. So I'm kind of really happy to have this album finally, because I never had any albums by them, but they're a cool band. I respect them so much. And this album's called Poison. It came out in 1987, so it's a little bit one of their more later albums. You can tell that it was a rental, has some stuff on it, but you know, it was part of the lot for 1,000 yen. I'm not complaining. It's pretty cool. So just real happy. So this is a lady called Yasuko Agawa, also known as Yasuko Lovebird. She was a Japanese jazz singer, and she did a lot of really cool albums, a lot of standards, as most jazz singers are. They do a lot of cool standards. It came with 2 of her albums, and like I said, her albums, she either goes by Yasuko Lovebird or she goes by her real name, Yasuko Agawa. And but she did do a city pop single in the late 80s called LA Night, which is amazing. If you guys look it up online, look it up on YouTube, it's a killer record. It's a 12-inch. I think it was released in England, and it's backed up by, I think, English or American musicians, but definitely like a really, really cool city pop song. But I haven't heard these yet. Again, they're mostly standard, so I don't know if she does them like in a city pop style or if she just does a straight jazz record. But this is the album called Journey. Let's see, this album came out in 1980, and then this is a second album, Soft Wing, from 1982. So these are 2 albums. So it's cool that I'm exposed to a new artist that I haven't had a chance to listen to her albums. That's why it was a nice little comp. And I'm still, I think this is the last one that was in the comp, and this lot that I bought. And this is really cool because this is a French duo called Mikado, and it's a self-titled album called Mikado, and it was produced by Haruomi Hasano, and so it's a cool French synth pop album produced by Hasano, and it just has like a good sound to it, just got a good mating of like what French synth pop was doing at the 80s at the time, and what Japan was doing at the time. And I haven't heard the album yet, but a lot of people swear by this album, that it's a must pick up, you need to pick it up. And it was, I don't think, it was released in Japan, and it was only released in France, so it didn't get around a lot, or it didn't get a U.S. release or anywhere else. But it's you look at the cover, the photography, and it just has its own vibe. And they're definitely, what I hear, it's a really good album. Just haven't had a chance to listen to it. So the next slot I got here, and I kind of shouldn't have bought this lot. It was a little bit of a rush, and so I didn't look at it correctly. So there was like a rental record that was all taped up on it. But this is Michiko Watanabe. Really cool. I had one of her records for a long time, and I know a lot of people are kind of discovering her right now. And her albums are just really cool. She just has, again, a good city pop disco sound. And just she's her own songwriter, so she writes a lot of her own songs on the album, and just a cool vibe. And so this comp right here, not a comp, this is her first album right here, and it was a four lot. So this is her first album, Umi ni Su Teti, and so this album came out in 1978. And then this album is the next album called Fog Lamp. This one came out also in 1978 at the end of the year. This is a really cool album. It's a very disco city pop album. I think Jun Sato, who did the production work on it, or Ken Sato. I think it was Ken Sato or Jun Sato. One of the two. I always get them mixed up. But he did wrote some songs on it and did the production work on it. This is a top album. You guys got to buy this album. This is really cool. It's called Fog Lamp. Definitely pick it up. And then the next album is Memories. This is from 1979. This is her third album. I haven't had a chance to listen to this one yet. I did listen to the first two, but not this one. And then this is the one that was the rental that had the sticker on it, which kind of sucks because it's a very modern album cover. I mean, to me, this could have been released in the 90s. It just has that like real modern look to it. And unfortunately, it's a rental that's all taped up. But her albums are not real expensive. Of course, her like later 80s ones, of course they are, because they didn't make that many of them. So it's not much of an issue to buy another copy. But I wish I was a little bit more cautious when looking at the pictures and seeing that it was a rental. But she's great. And I got to vacuum clean them. They're a little dirty. So I gotta sonic clean them. So. All right, so the next lady here, she's real important. She only did 3 albums. This is Junko Hiratani. She only had 3 albums for herself, but she was a real sought-after session vocalist who did a lot of the backup singles, singing on literally dozens of albums. Right now, she has 217 records that she sung backup on Discogs. So she was like first call vocalist for what was going on at the time. If you're city pop or idol or anything, this was the woman that you called the first call that you made. She's a first call vocalist. And that's how I discovered her, because I would just see her name over and over and over and over again. And I realized that she actually had her own albums as well. She had 3 albums. And so out of respect, I mean, you just have to buy her albums, because she made such an impact on city pop and Kayo and idol and just on so many different levels. So really cool album. I like it. I know the second one's more of a city pop record, and but the other 2 are a little bit harder to find. So, but she only did 3 albums. I said, just out of respect, I feel everybody just needs to pick up her albums, because she played such an important part on so many records. And I've literally put in her credit probably 50 or 100 times. No joke. She's like on every record. So she already passed away. Unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago in 2020. So just another reason to reach out to her music and her sound and her voice. And she's really cool. And definitely reach out and find her music. So I'm trying to finish up the RAL 8800 series, as you guys all know. And Deerheart and Air Records combined their catalog numbers. And I'm very close to even getting all the Deerheart ones. And I'm also very close to finishing all the 12 inches that were on Air Records. This is the third of the last 2, the third of the last 3 I need. I need 2 more after this one. And of course, this is Katamatsu's 1985 Hatsukoi and Snow Lady Fantasy. Really cool 12-inch. I got to spin this one at the Chibi event. Really happy to get this, and because I know it's always been a little bit tough trying to locate this one. I mean, finding it at a good price, because it can sell up to 4,500 or 5,000 yen. I think I got it for under 2,000 yen, or right around 2,000. I know I didn't break 2,000 with any of these records, so really happy to get that one. So, and this is the Deerheart. Trying to get some of these Taiko Onuki records. There's 3 of them that are on the RAL 8800. This is RAL 8810. This is an amazing album. I really put off putting this album, but it's actually probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite, next to Summer Shower. Just a good synth pop sound throughout. It's just a great album, and I really like the sound that she has on this album. This is Signify. It came out in 1983, and I've been putting off this one for a while, so I'm glad I finally got it. And the second of 3 of the RAL 8800 series for Deerheart is Bande Original Cashier Sorte du Feu June 1984. It's a soundtrack to a TV show a Japanese TV show. As far as I know, I haven't really kind of found out. Really cool, really atmospheric, has a couple of cool songs on it. I didn't get to listen to it completely 100%. I think I just listened to the first side, and it's really good. But keep in mind it's a soundtrack, so it's a lot of instrumentals on it and stuff. But really nice. Has an OB on it, and you can't tell. I never noticed in the picture, but it's embossed. So there's like rays coming from her across the bottom here. So there's a best of, and that's kind of closing out Taiko Inuki for the RAL 8800 series to finish up that run of records. So I'm getting very close. I'm very happy about that as well. So, all right. So the next lot, and this is again another lot that I got for under 1,000 yen. I got about 5 or 6 circus records. Very cool, tight, like close harmony band, similar to Hi-Fi Set. You guys probably know them. I mean, they're just an incredible band, and this is a really historic. I know you guys seen this cover before, so it's really cool to finally have these. I think I got the lot for like 700 yen, like $7, $6. So it didn't break the bank. So this is the first album, has the Mr. Summertime, which is an amazing song, which is a cover of a French song, but their version is pretty cool. The second album right here is called New Horizons, and it has 2 covers. This is the original cover, which I prefer. Very cool album, just good sound, good music throughout. This album came out in, this album came out in, in 1979, so it was the second album. This is what the second cover looks like. I think after they had a hit, they reissued it with the picture of the group on it. So if you see these 2 covers and you're wondering, like, well, what's the difference? They're the same album. They just have different covers. This is the reissue cover. I prefer the first one, but it's still cool, the lot that I was able to get both album covers. And I didn't even notice you can actually even see the cover of the first album. It's like they pasted it over. So I just noticed that right now. So, all right. So this is the third album. This is an album called Wonderful Music. This came out in 1980. It's Wonderful Music. I think it's called Jump in New York. Really cool. I really like this one as well. It has the hype sticker on it right now. This was recorded in Power Station, which is a famous New York recording studio, and partly recorded over there with American musicians. And it's really cool, really cool. All right, so this is the first. It also came with 2 compilations, and this is one of them. This is called New Boutique. This was their first compilation. It came out in 1979. So it came out after their second album. Again, it's probably like more of a singles comp. I don't know if there's anything new on it. I haven't had a chance to go through it. And then this is their second comp, which is called Best Hit Circus. It's missing its OB, but it's fine. Like I said, it was a $600-700 yen auction. So it's not that bad of a deal to get it in. And like I said, when you get those lots, it's fine when it's that cheap that you're not going to get everything with it. So really cool. And okay, so this is part of my VAP run now. That's kind of been my main focus since I'm sort of done with Air Records, with the albums at least. I have some loose things I need to tie up, but generally I'm very much done. So I'm really been focusing on VAP, which is Video Audio Project. I literally got, and I only show the albums, but I literally got like 25 or 30 singles from VAP, from all these different artists. I got about 4 or 5 albums. This is a Circus album. Circus did 2 albums on VAP. I talked about one before called Struttin'. I wasn't really a big fan of that album because it kind of moved away from their tight harmony, close harmony sound, and the city pop sound they had. It was kind of tended to be more of a rock album, so it didn't really work well for them. But this album is amazing. This album is, if you haven't picked up this album yet, definitely if you want to kind of explore Circus, definitely get this album. You're gonna love it. This one it's called Cool Love. It came out in '83, and it's just good throughout. And it looks like a snake, but it's actually a shoe. It's like a high heel with the snake tongue on it. And you don't. I thought it was just a snake, but when you actually see the album, it's actually a high heel. And so it's a really creative cover. But definitely, if after the first or second album, buy this one as your third album. You're gonna love it. You can't go wrong with that. So I'm also trying to get some of these more obscure idols, and they did have a lot more idols than I thought. I would say they must have had about a dozen idols. Unfortunately, a lot of them only had maybe like an album, if they're lucky, an album. A lot of them were just one-off singles, 2 singles, 3 singles. This is Yuki Nito. She was lucky enough to have an album and 4 singles, and so that's a little bit more than average if you're following VAP and if you're looking at the catalog numbers on VAP. You tend to see a lot more one-off records, so she's kind of lucky that she got an album, and really cool. She has a really good sound. And I'm really happy to get this album because it is somewhat of a harder album to find. And I have to listen to it again. There's a couple of really good songs, but I think it's one of those albums I kind of got to get used to. And it's just a beautiful cover. I mean, she's a beautiful young lady. You know, she's older than me, but at the time, beautiful young lady. I just really love the cover. She just really sells this album just by the photograph with the flowers in her hair and everything. Really cool. So this was another idol. This is Risako Shitara, and she was kind of lucky enough too to also have an album and about 4 or 5 singles. Now I think she had 3 singles, and she's actually really beautiful. I don't know why they picked this. Is not a really appealing photograph of her because she was actually a bikini model and like a grave model, and she's gorgeous. She's a very beautiful lady, but it's a cool cover. In certain ways, I do kind of like it. I like how it's the yellow on it. And but the album's called Marginal Notes. This is one of the more later VAP records to be released. This is like 3306, which is kind of really late. This is like 1987, 88. So this is actually a really tough album to find. You can't hear it on YouTube or anything. It hasn't been uploaded. So it was one of those albums I kind of needed to find if I really wanted to hear it. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. And of course, this is Pink Cloud. This was a rock. This is more of an earlier VAP record. It's 800. It's 43, so it's kind of like 82, 81. I think that's when it came out. It came out in 82. And this was a real famous rock trio. It featured Char, famous guitar player, on guitar. Drums is Johnny Yoshinaga, and bass was Masayoshi Louis Kabi. This is a really cool album. I really like their sound. Again, there's no middle ground with rock with Japan. It's either super really cool or super really kind of mixed out. This is a super cool album, and it has a nice city pop sound to it. VAP tended to be, when it started, it tended to be more of a rock label in certain ways, and it kind of gradually turned into a city pop label, like probably in 82, 83, when you start getting Omega Tribe and a lot more of those later records, and Momoko Kukushi. You start getting that more city pop sound, but in reality, it was more of a rocker label. Now, the cool thing about this album is that, and I didn't get this with a lot, but I'm a huge fan of this band right here, the GS band called the Golden Cups. This is their debut album that came out in 1968, 67. This rock band was ahead of their time. They should have toured the United States. They should have toured England and France back in the 60s because they were a great rock band. And this guy right here was the bass player for the Golden Cups right here. And I'm going to flip it around on the back, and it's this guy right here. That's Louis Kabi. He ended up being the bass player for Pink Cloud, and he's a great bass player in the Golden Cups. And it's so great to know that he was still a solid bass player into the 80s. And unfortunately, he passed away. He passed away in 2 years ago. And it's unfortunate, going back to the Golden Cups, is that all these, pretty much the band has mostly passed away. There's only 2 living members left in the group. And it was just kind of sad because they were just a great rock group. These guys were awesome, and it's great that Louis Kabi was able to continue his musicship into Pink Cloud in a really cool rock band. That's amazing. So just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't realize that he was in the band until I got the record. So, and this is another Pink Cloud. This is their last album on vinyl. This is an album. Let's see, what's the name of this album again? I think it's called Alive, and it's recorded live in the studio. There's only 5 songs on it, so it's not a really it's not really like a full album. It's more like a mini album, but it's good. I mean, like those 3 guitarists, Char, Johnny, and Louis Kabi, were just excellent musicians. It was like a super group, and anything they did was always good. And this is a really funny cover, but it's a real inexpensive. You want to listen to Pink Cloud, but it's more of their late I would say they're mid-80s rock sound, so it's a little bit different, but still good, still good. All right, so now we're moving into RVC Corporation, and I've been doing a deep dive on RVC Corporation, and this is kind of like the last of the albums I'm going to be talking about here, but RVC Corporation, I'm starting to like unpeel it like an onion and trying to figure out what the label's about and what the catalog numbers and how everything relates to. And there's really two catalog numbers you really need to know about, and that's the, let's see, let me and that's the RHL and the RVL. And both the RHL was the original one, and then it kind of did the RVL. And I'm saying these numbers now because once I start talking about this, your guys are going to start looking up these other records, you know. But so I'm going to get more into that. But this is RVC Corporation, of course, was RCA Japan. It was between Victor and RCA United States that they put their kind of forces together and did RVC Corporation. So this is from the RHL series. This is a guy named Rambo Minami, and this album came out in 1982. It's called Rambling Rambo. They say it's a city pop album. I don't really consider it a city pop album. He kind of had that Leon Redbone. If you ever heard the Mr. Belvedere TV show, and there's like that theme song, it's kind of like this neo vaudeville kind of gumshoe, like kind of bluesy, like 1930s bluesy kind of sound. And that's really what his sound was, Rambo, this gentleman right here. So it kind of touches on city pop, but he really isn't a city pop artist. He's more of that neo vaudeville sound. So he sings in that like kind of like Redbone, like Leon Redbone. He has that. He sings like that. So it was an inexpensive album. The cover's great. You know, it is a real city pop cover if you ask me. But I don't really consider it a city pop album, even though somebody on Discogs called it. You know. So anyway, that's just my take on it. This album right here. This is Kiyoshi Maekawa. He was the lead singer of a Mood Kayo band called the Cool Five, and they did a really famous song in 1969-70. That's awesome. It's a really, really cool Mood Kayo song. But what's great about this album, it's kind of like a city pop album with like a Mood Kayo sound to it. And it's really cool. Ryuichi Sakamoto's on it, Jun Sato, Sugadoshi Godo, Kazuko Kato from Sadistic Mika Band, and Kazumi Zuzu Yasai. Both of them wrote the songs for Macross for Do You Remember Love. They were a couple, they were married, but they also wrote songs for this album. And what's really great about this album is that he was an older singer. Cool Five was still like a relevant band for Mood Kayo in the 70s. But it was kind of cool that like these really ahead of their time artists reached back to a guy from a Mood Kayo band from the early 70s, late 60s, and recorded an album for him. And it's cool. It's a really like dynamic album. They wrote it for him, so it's tailored for him, but it still has those brilliances of city pop and synth pop, and like it's a really cool album. I would love to get another copy with the OB on it, but I'm just happy to finally get it. So all right, so now we're going down to the RVL series. And this was the first album. Now, I need to talk about this because this is the series. RVL is 8001 to 8051. That run of records, that has Spacey, it has Ippo Downtown, it has Maria's early albums, it has Masahiro Kuwana's albums, Tomoko Soro, Tatsuro, Circus Town is on it, Taiko Anuki's Mignon. I mean, like, this is the run that you guys want, from RVL 8001 to RVL 851. And this was the first record on that run. And this album is by, let's see, this is Yukio Fukuyama, and it's called Amayadori. It's more of a folk rock album. It does have some nice rock in it. Unfortunately, this was really warped. And so, like, I got to either take the warp out or buy another copy, which is unfortunate because it's a clean album. And it's one of the most warped records I ever bought, so I'm kind of a little disappointed. But it's a great cover. But, like, these next three records I'm going to talk about are, like, the Sequentience Net records. So this is RVL 8001. The next one is RVL 8002. Now, this is Miki Katsuhiko, and that's not him on the cover. We kind of had a talk. I couldn't tell in the older picture. Wasn't sure if it was him or not, but it's a wild cover. I mean, it's just like, what is this album? Why haven't I known about it? And I actually am the one that listed it on Discogs because I'm trying to fill out what records are missing from the RV8000 series. And this album popped up. I got to buy this album just by that cover. And while I'm going to go back to, well, this album is kind of, I would say this album is more of like a city pop album that has a step in mood Kayo. Album is a mood Kayo album that has a step in city pop, and it's more mood Kayo, but it has those flashes. He wrote those albums. That's not him, but he was like a young teen singer that became an idol before they used the term idol in 1965, 64. He was an actor, and so I have some of his singles somewhere, and I actually should have pulled it so I can show you guys. So again, it was kind of cool that like he kind of became relevant again with this album, and he does a cover of a really really cool city pop cover. Mickey does of a Billy Joel song, "The Stranger," and it's not my favorite like Billy Joel song. His version is all city pop, and it's killer, and you need to pick it up. It's a really rare record. It's like a $300-$400 record, 45, but they did reissue it last year, so you can get the reissue of it. So again, RVL 8002. So that was the second one released on it. Now the third one is this one right here. This is Tomoko Soryo, and you guys know about her because her second album actually says city pop on the obi, and this is called Yasahiko Ashite. This came out in 1976. She was actually in a band, a duo, with another girl called Tina, but this was their first solo album. And I love her music. She's a very beautiful woman, very beautiful. And but this was the third record, RVA 8003. And I think RVA 8004 is Circus Town. And again, I should have pulled that out and to put it behind it to show like this is the sequence. So what I always like to say is that, if you have this record and it's like 8012 and it's cool, and 8014 is cool, find out what 8011 and 8013 is, because most likely it's going to be a good album. And this is a good example of the first three albums on RVA 8000 are really cool. So, all right, and so this is more of that same series, but it's a little bit later. This is a group called Space Circus, and they're like more of a prog rock album, but not really prog so much. I would say they're closer to Rush. Like Rush has those, the Canadian band Rush. They have kind of, they're not a prog band, but they have those flashes of prog, but also of like just good melodies and good heavy metal and good hard rock, And this is a band called Space Circus. They only did 2 albums. This is the second one. No, this is the first one, and it's cool. I mean, that cover is just like, that's an amazing cover. It's just shocking. It's just a really cool cover. I wish I would have got an OB. It's not a really tough one to find. This is RVA 8043. Definitely pick it up if you're into like more of like the prog sound of like late 70s, early 80s Japanese music. This is a must pick up, and both of the albums actually. And the next album, this is 43. This is 44. Now I didn't get this one in the package. This was actually a Discogs purchase. I actually found it for a good price on Discogs and bought it. This is Miharu. This is Miharu Koshi. This is her second album, and right away, she was originally presented as an idol. And if you look at that first album cover she does, it's very idolish. And right away, she's like, "I'm moving away from idol. I want to be taken as a serious musician," because she wrote her own songs. She was part of that cocky pop. What is it called? Yamaha music. They had their own school of musicians that they would that they would promote and kind of like take them by the hand and walk them through the industry. Really cool. Yagami Junko Yagami was also from cocky pop Yamaha. So this is a really cool album. Really good funk on it. It's good straight through, beginning and end. You can't go wrong. Really, really cool. So, all right. So we're going down to the last 3 here. And what's really cool is that these are the last 3 Masahiro albums I needed for my collection. I got all the vinyl. There's 2 greatest hits I'm missing. One's really easy to find, but kind of pricey. The other one I've never seen for sale, which is also I think it was on Moon Records. So this is the first album. This is when I started unwinding RCA catalog, and there was a lot of mistakes on there was a lot of mistakes on Discogs that I kind of cleared up. I found out after I bought it that this is actually the reissue, which is because it's the RVA 8024. So original one I think is the RH catalog number, and I finally figured out. But basically, the records 8010, RVL 8010 through 8024 are reissues. They reissued like a whole bunch of records from that time. So if you buy anything in that range from RVC Corporation, it's going to be a reissue. And so I had to do a lot of changes. Like, oh, somebody made a mistake. So I was able to kind of get all these records in a proper situation here. So I'm really happy. It's a good album. It has some beautiful songs on it. Harumi, his sister's on this album. You can hear her singing backup on it. It's just a beautiful album. Both of them had beautiful voices. They had beautiful, strong voices. And I'm just really happy to be to finally kind of close out my Masahiro collection, Kuwana. So this is one of the last ones I needed here. This is actually like a kind of like a mini album. It's a cover album. It's called Rock and Soul Special. Came out in 1981. A really clean copy with the OB and everything. It's a promo copy, so I'm really happy. It's just kind of covers of like Stax and Atlantic music. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but it kind of has that sound through it. But it's kind of cool. This is another one, which is RHL 4000 series, and this is actually the series that has a lot of the 12 inches, like EPO's. I forgot the little mini album she did is on this catalog series, and California Crisis, that album is also on this one. So it's like this little small run, about 7 releases that are kind of like these little mini albums. And this is just one of them. This was the second one. So again, I'm unraveling those catalog numbers. I'm trying to figure out what all these catalog numbers, because it's very appealing. So the last album, I always like to save my my big album for last. And like I said, everything was under 2,000 yen. Most everything was under 1,000 yen. There's a few albums that went between that, but generally that's what it was. So the last album is something I've been wanting to find for a long time. It's a really difficult album to find. And it's Kawana's last album Masahiro, on Moon Records. And this is a very, very tough record to find. It's not easy. It's his 1988 album. It's on Moon Records when it's kind of one of the last vinyl releases on it, and it's tough. It's really, really tough to find this record. Fuji Maru Yoshino co-produced the record, wrote some songs on it. So there's a lot of good pedigree. Masahiro was a great songwriter in his own right. So it's just a great collaboration at the end here. It's difficult. This is the first one I've ever seen for sale on Yahoo Auctions, and the only one sold on Discogs in 2019, and that's it. Those are like only 2 copies I've ever seen of this album. And like I said, those late 88, 89 albums, if there's an artist you like, buy those albums right away, because those are the hardest ones to get. And this one was a hard one to get. And I didn't think I was going to own it. It was one of those albums I thought, you know what, I'm just probably going to get the CD, and I'm just going to have to deal. I didn't get the last album by him, but I did, and I'm very happy. So yeah, that's my run. That's my package. And I do get I don't just get albums. I get CDs, and I get 7 inches. I got a really cool, like, a Yanko Club, Sari Kokoshu, like, autograph that I got, a signboard. But I like to talk to the albums, but a lot of these artists I'm starting to complete. So I'm going to do like an artist retrospective of Kuwana very soon. I want to listen to all his albums and kind of talk about each one. And that's kind of my plan with a lot of these artists, to actually have a retrospective with these. And I am buying a lot of VAP records right now, so I do want to talk about some of those VAP artists besides Moko Kikuchi and what's the Omega Tribe. Those are the 2 big albums on VAPs. But I'm trying to get underneath. I'm trying to find some more of the rare stuff, and I'm finding amazing stuff. I do want to talk about those records, so I'm going to talk about them in the future. But anyway, thanks everybody. It was a lot of records. I should be getting a package next month, actually, and it's probably going to be my last one for the year. So I'll be talking about that. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming out to our show. I think we have a show adrift on the 9th at the Union in Corona, at the Union Barbershop Beer Lodge in Corona. And then I know we have a couple of more Plastic Cities going on to kind of fill out some of our lost events that Greg put on, set us up for. So we're going to be kind of finishing those up as well at the end of the year. So just want to say thank you for supporting me. These videos are on Rumble under Show Up Pop on my channel, so you can watch these videos. And also thank you for supporting us. And I just want to say again, just remember Greg Hignight. If you don't know him, definitely was one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and I'm really happy to have him in my life. And it's unfortunate that he passed on, but I know he's listening to some great music we haven't heard yet, and I'm going to miss him. And I loved him very much. So I just want to say, just remember Greg Hignight. For those who knew him and those who didn't know him, just remember his name and kind of keep him in your thoughts. And I appreciate everything, everybody. Thank you so much.